All right, welcome everyone. Let's get started. Welcome to Voting in San Diego 101, the 2020 election. My name is Oren, my pronouns are he or they, and I am today's MC. I'll introduce myself more in a minute, but first, welcome and some quick tech housekeeping. We have some people on the Facebook Live who will try to answer questions in the chat, but we also have a Q&A at the end if you stay on. There will be actually 3 guided step-by-step tutorials. Later during this broadcast, we will step through registering to vote online, checking your current registration status, and finding your representatives. And for those, we encourage you to use a second device if you have one, especially a desktop or a laptop computer if you have access to one. However, this video will be available online. If you want to watch now, you can just watch now and then come back later to go through those step-by-step tutorials yourself later. So that being said, thank you for coming today, and thank you. There will be a volunteer form at the end as well if you're interested in getting more involved. But before we begin, we want to acknowledge that we are on stolen and occupied Kumeyaay land, and the Kumeyaay nations have occupied Southern California for over 25,000 years. And today's training is hosted by the San Diego County Democratic Party. And we'll like to take a quick moment to let all the party staff and volunteers on the call today to introduce themselves. So Ryan.
Hi everybody, my name is Ryan Hurd. I am the Executive Director of the San Diego County Democratic Party. And it's exciting to have this opportunity to talk about the process of voting in such an important election year. I've been voting in San Diego County since the year 2000, just after I moved here.
Hi everybody, my name is Andrea Duran Aidoan, and I am Operations Director here at the County Party, and my pronouns are she and her, and I have been voting in San Diego County since 2008 when I voted for President Obama, and I'm really excited to talk to you all today about how to get voting in 2020.
Hello everyone, my name is Jesus Mendez Carvajal, my pronouns are they, them. I am a consultant on this project with the San Diego County Democrats, and I actually am not eligible to vote, and so looking forward to the day that I can, and have participated in several local campaigns and canvassing efforts, so I'm pretty familiar too with the process. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you all. And my name is Oren Robinson, pronouns are he or they, and I am the secretary inside of the San Diego County Democratic Party. And my first time voting in San Diego County was 2014, around the time that I moved here. So that being said, why are we here today? We're about to jump into this. But no matter where we come from or what our color, most of us work hard for our families and want pretty much the same things. But today, certain politicians and their greedy lobbyists hurt everyone, handing kickbacks to the rich, defunding our schools, cutting Medicare and Social Security, and stripping working people of our rights to negotiate in unions. Then they point the finger for our hard times at poor families, at Black people, at new immigrants. We need to join together with people from all walks of life to fight for our future, just like we won better wages, safer workplaces, and civil rights in our past, right here in San Diego. By joining together, we can elect new leaders who work for all of us, not just the wealthy few. And we'll make some more acknowledgements at the end, but that came from Ian Haney Lopez's research, that message. So today you will learn all the basics about voting in San Diego in this November 2020 election and beyond. And we will start with the who, what, when, where, and why. So let me just share my screen. So we will be looking at the election overall, then we'll be doing the tutorials, and then getting involved in the party and some announcements and question and answer. So the who, what, where, when, and why. Who can vote? What is on the ballot in 2020? When to vote? Where to vote? And why vote? And we'll start with the why vote first. And so we invite everyone on the call so far, if you could, to share with us why you vote. And we'll ask you to do that using this link which we will type into the chat right now. If you just give me a second. Oops. So sorry about that technical difficulty. You can type that out yourself if someone else can type that on here. So we're going to give people a minute to fill out that poll and read back some of why we are voting in 2020. We're giving people just a minute to fill out the poll. It's in a comment in the comment section on this video. All right. So just pulling up these responses now. If you haven't filled out the poll, it's in a comment on this video. We've got 4 people still finishing up. So we've only gotten 1 or 2 people who've completed the full thing. So we'll just shout out some of our answers here too. We've gotten one, why do you vote? To make my voice heard. What are some other ways to make change other than voting? To talk to your friends and neighbors about voting. We'll come back to this maybe at the end to see if there's more folks who've taken that survey. But for now, let's move on to the next very important question, which is who can vote in 2020? So I'm going to share my screen again. And these are the questions that we get all the time around who can vote in San Diego County. So before we go through, there's 4 criteria that means that you have the right to vote. And before we do that, we do also want to acknowledge that historically there has been limited access to voting in this country in many, many ways. And there still are many barriers to voting. But in this upcoming election, if you will be 18 on election day, which is November 3rd, 2020. So if you were born on or before November 3rd, 2002, then you are old enough to vote on November 3rd, 2020. If you are a US citizen, and if you live in San Diego County, and you actually don't need to have a street address if you are currently homeless or unsheltered and don't have a street address, you can actually register to vote with an intersection that you are nearby. And you must register to vote in order to vote on November 3rd. And just another note that in order to register, you must also not be currently in state or federal prison or on parole for the conviction of a felony or found mentally incompetent to vote by a court. So if you answered yes to these 4 questions, then you can vote this November election. And the next question is what? What is on the ballot this year? And as many of us know, the presidential election is happening on November 3rd, 2020. So that will be on everyone's ballot. You will also see at least 13, probably more than 13, yes or no questions. These are state and local ballot measures. And California is one of the states that asks these almost every single election. Then there will be 3 or 20 more down ballot races. So these are not yes or no questions, these are state and local candidate races. So everyone will have at least one congressional race that they're voting on, a state assembly race that they're voting on, and other races that may or may not have a declared party preference. So in order to find out who the Democrat is in these races, you might need to do a little bit of research on your own and learn about the candidates in those races. So when do we vote? And this is another big question we get this year because, as a lot of people know, there is a global pandemic, and that's changing a lot of the ways that we are talking about voting, but some things are actually quite the same here in California. So just like all the previous elections, there's a window for the past many years, there's a window about 1 month that you will have to vote. So you can begin voting as early as October 5th. The registration deadline is on October 19th. And so that registration deadline, there are still ways that you can register closer to, but we strongly recommend that you register to vote today. If you aren't currently registered, register as early as possible because that's going to guarantee that you get your ballot mailed to you. Election day is the last day to vote, and that will take place on Tuesday, November 3rd. And on election day, there are extended hours that you can go and vote in both the county registrar's office or at various satellite voting centers and polling locations, which we're going to show you how to find those shortly on this call. So one more thing about this is where to vote. And again, because this is a pandemic, we strongly recommend voting from home this year, more so than previous years. When you get your ballot mailed to your home, you will have the ability to drop it off at any library during the day, during the month of October, or at various locations such as the Registrar of Voters, satellite voting centers, and at your polling location, which has likely changed this year. Now at the bottom of this screen, you'll also see that the 4 days leading up to and including the last day to vote, Tuesday, November 3rd, those 4 days, starting on Halloween, Saturday, October 31st, those 4 days, there are full-time hours open at 4 different, and the number might be slightly different, voting centers throughout the county. So you'll find more information about that at sdvote.com. But for those 4 days leading up, you can vote in person in multiple locations across the county. That being said, again, we strongly recommend the voting from home, not only because it's guaranteed to be safe and convenient, but you also get much more time to look over the ballot in the comfort of your own home before you cast your vote. And now we're going to start doing the 3 quick step-by-step tutorials to make sure that you are ready to vote in 2020. And the very first step-by-step is to find out if I am registered. And you can check your registration with the San Diego County Registrar of Voters, and that's at sdvote.com. And we invite you to go there now. If you'd like to follow along, we're going to try to do this step by step together. And this is where you'll be able to quickly find out if you are still registered at your current address. And if you're registered at an old address, or you're not registered to vote, or you want to change your party to be Democrat, or if you want to request a mail-in ballot, you can do all of those in this next tutorial we're going to share after this one. So the first step, though, is to find out if you are currently registered. And this is what you will see when you're done. You will see your name, your registration, your party, and your voter information. So we're going to do this step by step right now by going to sdvote.com. And you'll find it by going to I want to. In the very top menu, if you're on your mobile phone, this will look a little different. I want to, and then underneath register, you can see check my registration. And so I want to check my registration, and it brings you to a page like this. Now there are a couple other languages on this website if you want to fill this out in Spanish, Chinese, or Tagalog. It's also available in those languages. And this is where you enter your own street number for your house number. So if you live at 100 Main Street, you would type in 100 right here. You don't need to worry about apartment numbers, just the house number. And then your own personal birthday and your current house number's zip code, or your street address's zip code. And the address you use here would be your residence address. And so we'll give people a second to enter those in. And once you do that and hit submit, you should see that same screen that we just showed that has your name at the top, a bunch of your personal information that you registered with to verify your identity, and it will tell you your registered party preference, and it will tell you your elected officials. So the very next question, and step by step, is how to register. And you might have seen that sdvote.com has a how to register item on their page as well. But we found it's actually even faster and easier to go to registertovote.ca.gov. And this is going to be the fastest online registration form to register to vote today. And so we're going to step through that as well. registertovote.ca.gov, and you click on register to vote now. And there's essentially only 3 of these pages out of 5 will ask you questions, and then the 4th page you'll review your answers, and the 5th page is you're done. So the first question is just verifying your citizen residence status. And then this one is going to ask you only about half of these questions are required. You'll see all the required ones have these little asterisks. And so just know that when you enter this form out, if you do include an email address or a phone number, you may be receiving more phone calls from candidates running for office. Those are not required fields. It's going to ask you your date of birth. It's going to ask you your place of birth. And again, these are optional questions, some of these. The identification, you will need to, if you have a driver's license, this is why this form is faster. If you have a driver's license, you'll enter that here, and that will mean that they can use your driver's license e-signature when you went into the DMV, and that will make this process much faster. If you don't have a driver's license, you need to check this box and put in the last 4 of your social security number. And then you put in your home address, and this is where you live, and this is the address that will determine which representatives you'll be voting for. And the final question on this form here is asking your political party preference. And we highly recommend you choose the Democratic Party. So that's the form to register to vote. And the final question that we want to make sure that you know the answer to is, who are my reps? And you have representatives at all levels, the national level, state level, the county level, and local levels. And you can find all of that in the exact same place we just checked your registration status. So if you complete that am I registered to vote check on sdvote.com, again, you'll come to this screen that looks like this, and the bottom half of this is actually where you'll find all of that information. So you'll find your countywide offices, you'll find which congressional district you're in. So in this case, the 53rd Congressional District tells me which congressperson is my representative in Congress. There are state districts like the Board of Equalization, State Senate, State Assembly, and then the County Board of Supervisor District. And as you go down this list, they'll get more and more local and specific to smaller jurisdictions. And so it eventually will even include things like your community college district. If you're in an incorporated city, you'll see your city council district and your school district. So, who can I vote for? And this is the best question of all today. There is a wonderful page on the San Diego Democratic Party, the County Party website that has a list of all of the Democratic candidates. And this makes it really easy to find who will be on your ballot. And you can reference those same exact districts that we just saw in order to find out which candidates are running as Democrats in places where you can vote. So this is the last link we're going to look at today together, and it's sddemocrats.org/candidates. And we're going to go there right now just to show you what that looks like. Democratic candidates, and it's in the November 2020 general election. And these are all of the candidates who will be on your ballot, who are Democrats. And again, depending on your, oh, I'm looking at the wrong one, that's why. I see Democrats candidates. And depending on the answers you saw at sdvote.com, those are the same districts that you'll see here. So you'll be able to see who is running in various districts. And so you'll see, for example, on mine it said District 53. So these are the people who are running as Democrats in my district. And last but not least, we want to invite you to also consider getting involved. So on these candidates' websites, there's many of these candidates have places where you can register to volunteer, get updates, donate, support. And I'm going to stop this share right now and turn it over to Ryan for any other announcements from the party or any other comments.
Hi, I guess just a little perspective on where we are right now in the cycle is that we have 1 week left in the candidate filing process. That's a process of qualifying to get your name on the ballot. And so we're working right now with close to 200 right now Democratic candidates running throughout the county for local offices, cities, school boards, planning districts. And our endorsements will be happening throughout August, wrapping up the 1st of September. So at that point, we will have our slate of endorsed candidates, and getting that information out to voters then becomes one of the main things that we do. And we'll talk about that, I think, a little later on during the volunteer options.
Yep, and I think actually, so I want to make sure that we get to any questions that have been asked in the comments as well. So I'm not sure if we have noticed any of those that stand out. I know we went through a lot just now, registering to vote, finding out who you can vote for. I'm sure we've got some questions. Let me pull that up. can you use your California ID if not a driver's license? So on that particular form, it is driver's license specific. So if you don't actually have a driver's license number to put in that field, they actually, you have to either check that box that says I don't have a driver's license or put in the driver's license number in answer to that question. And who are the highest donors to a candidate? Yes, so that's a great question. And I always forget the acronym, it's FFPC, FFEC. There is a website where you can go and find out by typing in, searching for a candidate name, because we have public laws that protect us from dark money. We have some left in this country. You can go and see all the donations over a certain number. I think it's $100 or $200 to any candidate. And so we can make sure to drop that link in this chat as well. And, all right, so. Yeah, so we've got also, we've got some questions also about, endorsements and personal research, and we encourage everyone to do your research. No matter if it's Barack Obama or the San Diego County Democratic Party, we encourage you to be a critical voter and to read about the issues that you care about and vote responsibly. All right, so I think those are the only questions I see. One other just PSA that we'd love to include on this today is that this is also a very important census year, and you do not have to be a registered voter. You do not have to be a US citizen. All you need to have done is be living in the United States on April 1st, 2020. If you did live in the United States on April 1st, 2020, then the US government wants to know for many, many reasons, including how money is allocated to states and how representatives are allocated to states. So by filling out the census in San Diego, you will increase the odds that there's more funds allocated to our programs locally and more representatives in the state of California for the next 10 years. So you can finish your census, and I believe the exact one, let me make sure I get this right, my census 2020. My2020census.gov is where you can go for that. So, and that's just my2020census.gov, my2020census.gov. You can take that online, it takes 5 minutes. You can also complete it over the phone. There's a phone number and 13 different languages. You can answer it over the phone or online. You can take 10 minutes to shape 10 years of funding and representation. And so with that, I think any other updates for people who want to volunteer with the party, I want to turn it back over to Ryan.
Thanks. Yeah, we are now at about 90 days from election day. And so we'll increasingly be putting out a lot of opportunities to get involved. This year, we're a little bit challenged, as in a lot of other aspects of life. The normal door-to-door canvassing that we do that's so effective is just not going to be possible. But we still want to have one-on-one conversations with people for all the ads and the mail and all the other stuff. That has its role, but we want to talk to individual voters, as many of them as possible. Many of them are new, have never voted before, part of why we're doing these conversations. And so a lot of that work involves making phone calls, sending text messages, sometimes handwritten note cards, really whatever's a good fit for the volunteer. So we're creating opportunities and matching up people who have time and interest in helping with the voters who we know need to hear from us to make sure that they know who our candidates are and to make sure that they understand how to vote and how important it is to vote this year. So I think there might be a link a little later on, but that is also on our website at sddemocrats.org/volunteer.
Awesome, thank you so much. And so it looks like we had planned this out for maybe up to an hour, but we got through it pretty quickly. So I would just like to thank the party staff. Thank you, Ryan, Andrea, and everyone else who made this possible today. And also like to acknowledge that there's a group called Demos Action, and the researchers' names are Anat Schenker Osario and Ian Haney Lopez, who published the race class narrative message that we started off today's meeting with. So you can learn more about them at demosaction.org, and we'll close out with just one more message that they published. California's strength comes from our ability to work together, to knit together a landscape of people from different places and of different races into a whole. And for this to be a place of freedom for all, we cannot let the greedy few and the politicians they pay divide us against each other based on what someone looks like or how much money someone has. It's time to stand up for each other and come together. It's time for us to vote for leaders who see all of us as equal, whether we're white, black, or brown, and who respect all of our families and will govern for all of us. So thank you all for joining us today, and let's get out the vote in 2020.